Miranda, thank you for giving birth to such a beautiful baby. Let's be happy together. You're overreacting. Walter held the newborn, tears welling up in his eyes, while Miranda looked on warmly. From an outsider's perspective, it might seem like a picture-perfect family moment. But the tearful man was my husband, Walter. And the woman watching him was my sister, Miranda. This was not a moment of family bliss. It was a scene of betrayal. With a resolve firm in my heart, I stepped in front of them. Naturally, Walter and Miranda were shocked. But they showed no remorse. You wouldn't have a baby, so I had one for you. That's right. I'm leaving you to live happily with Miranda. Fine, if that's what they wanted. But they would face the consequences. Behind me, 30 of Walter's relatives emerged, one by one. Walter and Miranda's faces turned pale as they realized what was happening. I smiled, ready for my counterattack. Congratulations! I hope you're happy. My name is Jessica, 30 years old. I don't have children, and I live a quiet life as an ordinary office worker with my husband. I met Walter through a friend's introduction, and we got married 2 years ago. But our marriage hasn't been great. As soon as we got married, Walter became colder than before. He helps with the housework, but his attitude towards me is distant. He's not interested in having children either. Recently, we've been sleeping in separate rooms, living like mere roommates. I wonder if I lack appeal as a woman. Looking at myself in the mirror, I sigh. My plain appearance always brings back unwanted memories. I've been tormented by my older sister, Miranda, since childhood. For some genetic reason, Miranda was stunningly beautiful, even among our relatives. Everyone doted on her, treating her like a princess. Our parents didn't show favoritism, but among our relatives, the difference was clear. Relatives would say she could be a celebrity, which boosted her confidence. And she looked down on me. Jessica, doesn't it make you sad to look like that? No, it doesn't. If I looked like you, I'd die of shame. Look at yourself. With those words, Miranda would pull my hair and mock my face. I couldn't bring myself to tell my parents about the bullying I endured from Miranda when we were alone. I didn't want to sadden them. But in my naivety, I didn't realize that my silence only emboldened Miranda further. Having my appearance constantly belittled since childhood greatly eroded my self-esteem. Losing all confidence, I tried to live as inconspicuously as possible. Even so, I couldn't escape my sister Miranda. Every time I liked someone, Miranda would swoop in and take them. In middle school, I was heartbroken when the person I had a crush on started dating Miranda. Jessica, I'm sorry. He was just really persistent. Oh. It's not like he would be interested in you anyway. I remember crying my eyes out that day, my eyes swollen and red. But what hurt more was that Miranda would quickly lose interest in these people. It was as if she found joy in my despair. I couldn't compete with Miranda's looks or figure. So, I focused on my studies instead. We were polar opposites, my sister and I. When I was in high school, our parents, who didn't seem to have a bad relationship, suddenly got divorced. The abruptness of it shocked me. I went to live with my father, David, while Miranda stayed with our mother, Ashley. Though I missed my mother, I was relieved to be away from Miranda. After that, I didn't see Miranda for a long time. Occasionally, I'd hear updates from my father, like Miranda went to college or she's working as a secretary at a local company, but I didn't pay much attention. When I got married, I informed my mother but not Miranda. I felt safe. But soon I realized Miranda was more devious than I had imagined. One day, I attended a middle school reunion. Though my memories of middle school were tainted by Miranda, I had good classmates. At a hotel venue, I enjoyed a nostalgic evening with old friends. Among them, I reunited with Kayla. She was our class president back then, responsible and caring. After some light-hearted chatting, Kayla said something shocking. "By the way, congratulations on your sister having a baby." "What? A baby?" Startled by the sudden news, I saw Kayla look equally surprised. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already knew since her belly was so big." Actually, our parents divorced when we were in high school, and we've been living apart since then. "Miranda's having a baby?" Kayla nodded with a troubled expression. She worked as a nurse at a local hospital and had seen Miranda coming in for prenatal checkups. Kayla looked uncomfortable, perhaps because she had disclosed a patient's privacy. "Oh, so your parents got divorced. I'm sorry. Please don't tell anyone I mentioned it." "Of course." Still, I was shocked to hear that Miranda was pregnant. I hadn't heard any news of her getting married, so was she planning to become a single mother? My father hadn't mentioned anything, but maybe my mother knew more details. When I got home, I called my mother to find out. She confirmed it with a weary voice. "Yes, it's true. But Miranda won't tell us who the father is. She insists on having the baby. I've informed your father, but there's nothing we can do since she's determined." "I see." My father must have been trying hard to keep it from worrying me. My mother, who assured me I wouldn't be burdened, also seemed concerned for my well-being. Though my parents are divorced, Miranda's pregnancy isn't my concern anymore. Feeling slightly relieved, I ended the call. At that moment, Walter came home. My current worry was more about Walter than Miranda. As usual, he didn't even make eye contact with me and spoke curtly. "I'll be working late more often from now on." "What, even more than now? Is work that busy?" "Of course. You wouldn't understand, working for a small company. I'm going to be the next CEO. I'm not like you, wasting time." I felt sad since I wasn't wasting time. But whenever someone speaks harshly to me, I'm sorry. I get timid. "Good, as long as you understand." Satisfied, Walter quickly headed for the shower. At that moment, I noticed a sweet scent lingering around him. It was reminiscent of women's perfume, making me realize something. Could Walter be having an affair? Is that why he treats me so carelessly? Up until now, I just thought he was cold, but now I see the shadow of another woman behind him. One Saturday, Walter mentioned he had a company training session and would stay overnight. When I asked where and what kind of training, he didn't give any details. Instead, he snapped, "Why do you need to know? It's none of your business." This made me even more suspicious. Could he be meeting with his mistress? With that anxiety looming, I received a call from someone who made me even more uneasy. It was Miranda. We hadn't been in touch since our parents' divorce. Unsure of her intentions, I hesitantly pressed the call button. "Hello." "Hey, Jessica. Long time no see." Miranda's tone hadn't changed a bit. Even though she was now 31, she spoke just as she did in her teens. After some small talk, Miranda got to the point. "Mom told me you know about my pregnancy." "Yeah. Miranda, are you really going to have the baby?" "Of course. You're going to be an aunt. I'll let you know when the baby arrives." I didn't care about that, but I was worried about something else. "Who's the father? Mom is really worried." "Don't worry, he didn't run away. There's just a reason." "A reason?" At that moment, a quiet male voice came from behind Miranda. A low voice calling her name. As soon as I heard it, I was very surprised. Hold on, I'm on the phone. Miranda hastily covered the mic and spoke to the person. Sorry, did you hear that? What? No. Is someone there? I replied, trying to stay calm. I couldn't let her know I had figured something out. I quickly decided to pretend nothing was amiss. Oh, it's nothing. Miranda, showing a relieved expression, began to wrap up the conversation. She ended with a sly smile. All right, talk to you later, Jessica. After hanging up, I collapsed weakly on the spot. 3 months later, Miranda sent me a cheerful message. The baby was born safely. It's a cute boy. Attached was a photo of the newborn, radiating happiness. I simply replied with a congratulations. As I sent the message, I noticed Walter suddenly standing up from the sofa behind me. He seemed restless, pacing the living room with his smartphone clutched tightly in his hand. Observing him calmly, I spoke up. What's wrong, Walter? You seem unusually restless, I said. Oh, it's nothing. Walter replied vaguely, uncharacteristically evasive. He didn't even notice the cold stare I was giving him. A few days later, Walter claimed he had an urgent matter and left. But I knew exactly where he was going. After seeing him off, I quickly made arrangements. This was the retribution I had meticulously prepared over the past 3 months. Once I finished all the calls, I got into a taxi and headed to a specific location. I arrived at a large hospital in the city. As I waited at the entrance, 2 happy-looking people emerged from the lobby. Walter, the man, was cradling a baby in his arms with a blissful expression. Next to him stood Miranda, looking satisfied after her monumental task. Miranda, thank you for giving birth to such a beautiful child. Let's be happy together. You're overreacting. Miranda replied. Today was Miranda's discharge day. Witnessing such a scene made my head spin. But I couldn't afford to lose my composure now. Regaining my resolve, I stepped in front of the unsuspecting pair as they exited the hospital. Jessica! You came? Yes, Walter's affair partner was none other than Miranda. The voice I heard from the other end of the smartphone that day was Walter's. Although I suspected it, hiring a detective confirmed the affair. Arms crossed, I glared at them with unprecedented fury and disdain. I came to visit Miranda. But I never imagined the father would be Walter. You two look quite happy, but happiness built on an affair doesn't last. How dare you speak so arrogantly? Walter retorted. His brazen attitude, despite being the perpetrator, irked me. Miranda, too, insulted me as if I were the culprit. You wouldn't have a child, so I had one for you. That's right. I'm divorcing you and living happily with Miranda. Walter emphasized the word divorce, thinking it would shock me, but it had no effect. I had long since accepted the idea of divorce. My purpose today was to make these two realize the consequences of their actions. I raised my right hand. The signal I had communicated to my allies. The ones being arrogant are you two. Don't you all agree? I said. Then, behind me, 30 of my supporters stood. They were Walter's relatives. Seeing them, Walter looked so shocked he nearly collapsed. Dad, Mom, and even Uncle and everyone, Walter exclaimed, his face pale with shock. The family members were all glaring at him with the same fury that I felt, but his parents, Joseph and Sabrina, looked the angriest of all. Walter, unwilling to meet their eyes, turned to me and shouted, "Jessica, you coward! How dare you involve my relatives in this mess?" But his father, Joseph, interrupted him. The coward here is you, Walter. Dad. When I heard about what you did, I was the one who called everyone here. We all came to set you straight. Walter, how could you do something like this? Standing beside him, Sabrina struggled to hold back her tears as she pleaded. Of all people, you had an affair with Jessica's sister, and even had a child with her. What were you thinking? Joseph, the president of the company, had been grooming Walter as his successor. The betrayal was a heavy blow. Sabrina, who was concerned about their social reputation, found Walter's misconduct even harder to accept. When I approached them with the evidence gathered by the detective, both of them sided with me over Walter. His selfish behavior had already eroded their trust in him. Despite everything, Walter seemed unapologetic. What's the big deal? I'm divorcing Jessica to marry Miranda. I'll file the divorce papers and then marry Miranda. The order of things is correct, isn't it? His audacity was appalling. And before I could express my disbelief, Joseph spoke up again, his voice filled with anger. It's not about the order of things. It's about ethics and morality. You're lacking in both, Walter. Joseph then placed a hand on the shoulder of a man standing nearby. You're not fit to be the president. We've already decided that Brian will be the next president. You're to leave the company immediately. Dad. Brian, Walter's younger brother, gave Walter a cold look. You've really disappointed us, Walter. If you can't even take care of your own family, how can you be trusted to take care of the company? Brian, you. Walter glared at his brother. But Miranda, standing next to him, looked horrified at Joseph's words. Wait a minute, Walter. You said the family was supportive. Miranda, this isn't the time. Not the time? This is crucial. Walter and Miranda began to argue. Walter had obviously lied to Miranda about the family's acceptance of their affair and remarriage. But that was all a complete lie. Walter had been telling convenient lies to both me and Miranda. What? I can't believe this. You said you were Jessica's husband and the next company president, so I thought it would be fun to steal you. Miranda, if you can't become the president, you're useless. Of course, it was me who interrupted, saying, wait a minute. I couldn't ignore the words. I thought it would be fun to steal you. Miranda, do you really find it that enjoyable to steal my husband? I was in disbelief. But Miranda, without a hint of remorse, confirmed it cheerfully. Of course it was. Taking something from you is my greatest pleasure. When I heard your husband was the next president, I couldn't wait. I'd get to have fun taking him from you and marry into wealth. That's why I had his baby. But now, he's not becoming president. What a disappointment. According to the investigators' report, Walter and Miranda's meeting was supposedly coincidental. Miranda returning a forgotten umbrella. But from what she was saying now, it was clear that she had planned everything. She had known Walter was my husband and had approached him with that knowledge. She was a devil in disguise. The relatives present seemed to share my sentiment, looking at me with sympathy. I was on the verge of tears. When my parents, who had been standing quietly among the crowd, stepped forward. I had called them here today as well. And though they had been watching the events unfold in shock, Miranda's attack on me had finally driven them to action. With a mixture of sadness and anger, they stood in front of me. Enough, Miranda! My father commanded. Dad! Mom! Even you guys! Miranda stuttered, clearly taken aback. Miranda stuttered, clearly taken aback. My mother marched up to Miranda. And with tears streaming down her face, she raised her right hand and slapped Miranda across the cheek. "What do you think you're doing?" Miranda cried out, holding her cheek in shock. Miranda cried out, holding her cheek in shock. "That's my line. Walter is the father of your child? What was the point of our pretending to divorce, then?" My mother spat back. "Pretending to divorce?" Miranda echoed in confusion. With tears in her eyes, my mother explained. Miranda had always been harsh toward me. And though I had tried to hide it, our parents had noticed. They had initially thought we were just typical quarrelsome siblings, but as we entered adolescence, it became clear that Miranda's obsession with me was unhealthy. My mother suggested to my father that they separate to protect me. Back then, Miranda constantly belittled my appearance, resorted to violence over trivial matters, and even stole people I liked. Our parents had noticed and worried about the future, fearing Miranda might ruin my life. So, they had decided to separate us under the guise of a divorce. They had not explained the real reason to me, respecting my efforts to hide Miranda's harassment. They also knew Miranda wouldn't accept the truth, so they framed it as their decision. When they told me this while discussing Walter and Miranda's affair, I had been shocked, but also felt their love and protection. Miranda, who knew none of this, looked bewildered. "Pretending to divorce? Why would you?" "Because you were always attacking Jessica. But I never imagined it would be this bad. We should have separated you sooner," my mother said. "Indeed. To think you'd continue such petty, childish behavior into adulthood and involve a child, it's disgraceful," my father added. My parents stood by my side, relentlessly scolding Miranda. Their support gave me the strength I needed. I would no longer be swayed by Miranda, my despicable sister. I turned to the two traitors with a resolute smile and said, "I'm done with you. This is goodbye. Congratulations and good luck." Those words were my heartfelt parting gift. After our confrontation outside the hospital, the relatives quickly dispersed, leaving me with words of encouragement, telling me to rely on them if I ever needed help. Even the nurse, Kayla, who had seen the commotion, later asked me what had happened. Although it was difficult to explain, I felt I owed her an explanation for her help with Miranda. She was shocked but supported me, showing an anger that made me laugh despite everything. The divorce proceedings with Walter progressed smoothly, thanks to the support from my in-laws. I received a substantial settlement from Walter. However, the emotional wounds inflicted by his betrayal were slow to heal. Naturally, the betrayal was too severe. What helped me endure was the support and understanding from my in-laws, Kayla's encouragement, and most importantly, my parents' unwavering support. Despite their difficult position, they stood by me throughout this ordeal, and I was immensely grateful. My parents regretted not taking action sooner, but they never imagined Miranda's obsession with me was so extreme. Even I hadn't realized she would go this far. Therefore, I never blame my parents. As for Walter and Miranda, they followed through with their marriage. However, Miranda soon lamented her new life, which was far from what she had expected. "I was supposed to be a CEO's wife, not living in poverty," she complained. Walter, having been expelled from the company, had little wealth. Brian was named the next CEO as declared, leaving no place for Walter. Relying heavily on his father's influence, Walter struggled to find new employment and ended up doing manual labor to make ends meet. Walter tried hard to support Miranda and their child, but his love never reached her. Eventually, Miranda abandoned Walter, leaving the child behind. This left Walter in despair. Walter tried to do his best as a single father, but it became too much for him and he asked his parents for help. Seeing this, His parents decided to take in and care for their grandchild, but Walter ended up in a state of utter despair, almost like a broken man. Walter's relatives felt pity for the child, who was not blessed with good parents, and supported his parents in raising the grandchild. Meanwhile, Walter completely abandoned his responsibilities as a father and disappeared from his parents' life. His relatives are now searching for him to secure child support. For Walter, it might have been a sincere love, as Miranda's beauty and charm were captivating. She had a mysterious power to enchant others. Even as a teenager, when she discarded someone I liked like an old rag. Miranda hasn't changed at all since then. She's really a hopeless child. That's what happens when you don't marry the person you truly love, my mother said with a hint of sadness in her voice. Meanwhile, I sold the house Walter and I had shared and moved into a condominium. I also started spending more time with my parents, enjoying the family togetherness I had missed out on for so long. Slowly, I began to heal from the wounds inflicted since childhood. As I threw myself into work, I was entrusted with a significant project. Can someone like me really handle being a leader? I questioned. You have a strong sense of responsibility, you're capable, and your patience is one of your best qualities, reassured Christopher, my manager, who had chosen me as the project leader. Despite his confidence, I still had my doubts. Do you really think so? I asked, feeling unsure. My patience had often seemed to enable Miranda's bad behavior. Christopher's next words were encouraging. Those in leadership positions need to endure a lot, but you have the strength to make decisive judgments when it counts. I believe you possess that strength. Thank you, I replied. It felt good to know that someone recognized my efforts. It made me realize that everything I had gone through wasn't in vain. Embracing my role as a leader, I dedicated myself even more to my work. Despite Walter's derision, our company, a mid-sized enterprise, thrived. And my contributions were acknowledged by my superiors. My salary increased significantly, allowing me to live more comfortably than before. I was enjoying my single life again, and before I knew it, I was 33 years old. 3 years had passed since the tumultuous divorce. One night, after returning home late from work, I was startled to see a figure standing in front of my apartment. The person wore a hood pulled low over their face and had their face wrapped in bandages. Instinctively, I tensed, suspecting a prowler. The aura surrounding the figure was so dark and ominous, it almost seemed ghostly. However, when the figure looked at me and spoke, I was stunned to recognize the voice. Jessica, help me, it pleaded. That voice! Miranda! I exclaimed. Miranda, the mysterious figure, stood before me. How do you know where I live? I asked, bewildered. I followed you from your office once, she confessed, unabashed by her stalker-like behavior. Beneath the bandages, her skin had a dull, unhealthy hue. I had no idea why she looked this way and was alarmed, but Miranda just continued to cry. Worried about the attention she might attract from passers-by, I quickly ushered her inside. Once inside, Miranda calmed down with a cup of tea I had prepared and began to tell me her story, tears soaking through her bandages. Miranda had botched her cosmetic surgery. No, saying it was botched might not be entirely accurate. She had undergone multiple surgeries, trying to fix ensuing skin problems, changing her bone structure in the process, and ultimately reaching a point where her face was beyond repair. She had trapped herself deeper and deeper in a quagmire. Now, she found it difficult to even go to work and had quit her job. Look at this, she said, showing me her face. The face she revealed was unrecognizable from the once beautiful Miranda I knew. Her skin was red, like burn scars, and the bone structure of her nose and mouth was different. I was stunned by the drastic change.
Why did you resort to plastic surgery? You never needed it,
I said, still in shock. Miranda, who had been praised for her beauty since she was a child, denied this and responded bitterly.
That wasn't enough. I needed to be even more beautiful. I need to find an even better man and be happy.
Her words astonished me. She had stolen my husband and still had the audacity to say such things. She had even abandoned her child, focusing solely on herself. And the direction of her efforts was completely misguided. As I stood speechless, Miranda glared at me sharply.
Jessica, you've become quite well off, haven't you? You must be making a lot of money.
I still need more surgery. Lend me some money.
Why should I lend you money? You stole my happiness,
I retorted. It wasn't just my husband. My childhood memories were also marred by Miranda. I had endured and overcome this with my inherent patience, but I wasn't a child who could only endure anymore. I had decided to condemn Walter and Miranda 3 years ago. And I wouldn't forgive them this time, no matter how much they pleaded.
You were born beautiful, but you've spent your life wishing for others' misfortune, and now look at you. From now on, you should focus on your heart, not your face. Jessica. Miranda, you felt happy by making me unhappy. But a happiness measured by others' suffering isn't true happiness. You need to face yourself properly.
The words I had wanted to say for so long seemed to shake her deeply. Miranda collapsed onto the table, sobbing. Before me was a foolish woman who had misunderstood the shape of happiness for years. However, I felt no obligation or affection to save her. I simply looked quietly at her small, hunched figure. After a while, Miranda left, looking utterly dejected. Her slumped shoulders and weak demeanor were unlike anything I'd ever seen from her. Miranda had always derived happiness from others' misfortunes since she was a child. Facing herself truly would undoubtedly be a difficult journey. 1 year later, my mother, who occasionally checked on Miranda, told me something surprising.
Miranda found a job? Yes. It's just a part-time job, but she's working as a building cleaner. I'm relieved she's finally started working.
As my mother spoke, I noticed how much more gray hair she had now, a testament to the hardships she had endured. Miranda had once worked glamorously as a secretary, and her high pride made me expect she wouldn't work for a while. I had worried about the burden this would place on our parents, so this was welcome news. Miranda likely chose the cleaning job because it involved little interaction with others, allowing her to hide her face with a mask. However, I wondered if such a job chosen for these reasons would last. I watched with a bit of unease. As expected, Miranda showed her true colors within a month of starting her new job. She stole cash from the company's safe. To my shock, Walter, who had been missing, was revealed as her accomplice. The two had been secretly in contact all along. The victimized company was one Walter had dealt with during his previous job, so they knew the location of the safe and the security measures. The pair hatched and executed this criminal scheme with cunning. But the security system was not easily fooled. They were quickly identified, arrested, and prosecuted. Walter's relatives, who had been searching for him, were furious about this malicious act. Already disliked for their involvement in my case, the two now found themselves completely alienated. Walter's parents, who had been diligently raising their grandchild, declared they would never forgive this betrayal.
That idiot son of mine is disowned. We are cutting all ties with him from now on.
Where did we go wrong? My mother recounted seeing their sorrowful expressions at the courthouse. Naturally, My parents had also lost all patience with Miranda. They told her they would not help her after she served her sentence for theft.
Why are you abandoning me? Miranda, you're an adult now. Reflect on the crimes you've committed and live independently from now on. Just because we're family doesn't mean you can do anything you want. Jessica and we have our own lives. You need to stand on your own.
My parents conveyed this firmly during their visit. Even Miranda, known for her cunning, was left speechless and hung her head. My parents have since moved to a different house and live together. I also moved to a new place, so Miranda doesn't know our whereabouts. Walter and Miranda, who always thought only of themselves and ended up resorting to crime, face an uncertain future after their release. Only God knows what will become of them. On the other hand, at 34, I continued to devote myself to my work just as before. The company had grown significantly, to the point of constructing a new headquarters. I had many subordinates now and had become a mid-level manager. As an assistant manager, I was now Christopher's right-hand person.
I'd like to discuss the upcoming project,
he said.
Sure. How about the conference room?
I responded. Christopher replied quietly. I found a nice restaurant. How about there?
Personal matters are off limits,
I said, mildly scolding him.
Sorry,
he said, with a slightly embarrassed smile. Recently, Christopher had been making advances toward me. At first, I was confused, but being approached by someone I had long admired didn't make me feel bad. Still, having sworn off marriage, I was hesitant to accept his advances. Yet, he gently reassured me that he would wait as long as it took. For now, I found comfort in his patience. But, well, if it's not about the project, then it's fine.
What? You're not going to take me to that nice restaurant?
I asked. Christopher's face lit up immediately. His straightforwardness was endearing, like that of a large, affectionate dog, and I found myself slowly drawn to him. It might take a little more time, but I decided to nurture this slowly and carefully. At long last, I had found my own happiness.
You still have that plain face, don't you? By the way, Kate, are you still single and living alone?
That's so hilarious. On a holiday, when the doorbell rang, I opened the door to find my sister and standing there, the same sister who had taken my husband Jim from me. 2 years ago, their affair had been discovered, and I had broken up with him. Since then, I had lost track of the two of them, but now Anne had suddenly shown up, mocking my appearance and flaunting the ring on her left ring finger.
We got married, so I thought we should meet at least once. Now I'm happily living with your ex-husband.
My name is Kate. Since I was a child, I had always been self-conscious about my appearance. My face and body were plain and unremarkable, and while I looked normal to others, I had a beautiful sister named Anne. I had always been compared to her, who was 5 years younger than me. I once overheard relatives. "And is so cute, but Kate is plain.
They don't look like sisters. Are they really from the same parents?"
saying. Anne knew about these comments and had always looked down on me since childhood. She had a selfish personality and believed she was superior to me, her older sister, and often demanded my things or simply took them if I didn't give them to her. Because of this, I frequently had unpleasant experiences living with her. However, our parents treated us equally regardless of our appearances. They ignored the relatives' hurtful remarks and showered me with love, which made me love my parents dearly. But my parents couldn't protect me from the harsh words at school. Naturally, I was compared to and at school as well. The cute younger sister and the plain older sister. This comparison was frequent, so I decided to excel in academics, as I couldn't compete with my sister in looks. My hard work paid off, and I consistently ranked at the top of my class. My best subject was Spanish, and my parents praised me every time I scored well on a test. However, when I was 17, my mother died in an accident. After mourning her death, I took over the household chores, but Anne didn't seem to grieve much and started treating me like a housekeeper. She always took advantage of our father's absence, which made it even worse. At that time, Anne was just starting middle school. She would order me to buy snacks and drinks and sometimes even demanded money. My monthly allowance is too small. Kate, you don't care about fashion or buying things, right? So, you can lend me some money, can't you? Even when I lent her money reluctantly, she never paid me back. Seeing Anne becoming more selfish than ever after our mother passed away, I felt a sense of urgency to leave home as soon as possible. I studied hard and managed to get into the university of my choice, starting to live on my own. After 4 peaceful years at university, I landed a job at a major international company. Being good at Spanish, my language skills improved even more after joining the company. Although I faced many challenges, I found my work rewarding and diligently performed my duties for 5 years. Just as I was achieving great success, a male employee who had joined the company that year suddenly confessed his feelings to me. "I've been attracted to you since the first time I saw you. Please go out with me." He stopped me on my way home from work and said this. The man who would later become my boyfriend, Jim, was 5 years younger than me and worked in the same department.
What? Why me? Is this some kind of prank?
When he confessed his feelings, I felt more bewildered than happy. He was quite handsome and very popular at work. There were many women in the company who were much more attractive than I was, so I couldn't help but suspect that Jim was just playing around by choosing to confess to someone as plain as me. But Jim, looking straight at me with a serious expression, continued.
"Kate, you always work so hard and take care of the younger employees. I've always admired your dedication and kindness."
I was surprised because I had hardly ever talked to Jim before. I never imagined that someone as successful as him would even notice me. Honestly, I hadn't paid much attention to him until he confessed to me. Even when other female employees gossiped about how handsome he was, to me, he seemed like someone who was just used to the attention of women and was far out of my league. But Jim's sincere demeanor at that moment deeply moved me.
"If you're okay with someone like me, I'd love to," I said.
I was so embarrassed that I looked down, but when I lifted my head, I clearly remember seeing his delighted smile. I had almost no experience dating men. Throughout high school, I was always compared to Anne and never had a chance for romance, and in college, the one guy I briefly dated broke up with me, calling me dull and plain. So, the idea of dating someone as good-looking as Jim was incredibly exciting to me at the time. We soon started living together. Our relationship went smoothly, and Jim would visit my father several times a year to show his face. My father was very happy that I had a boyfriend. Jim also seriously told my father, "I want to marry Kate someday," which made me incredibly happy. 3 years later, we got married. I was 30, and Jim was 25. When our coworkers heard about the wedding, they all warmly congratulated us, and I was on cloud 9. Jim transferred to a different department at work after our marriage, but we both continued to work hard. After registering our marriage, we decided to visit my father together. My father was happy about our marriage, but I hadn't informed my sister Anne about it. Maybe my father had told her, but I hadn't received any contact from her. Although I knew her contact information, we hadn't kept in touch since I left home, and I avoided seeing her whenever I visited. And was still living at home. She had repeated a year in high school and 2 more in college, finally graduating this year. I planned my visit to avoid meeting Anne, who I didn't want to see. However, while my father, Jim, and I were chatting pleasantly, the front door opened and a familiar voice called out, "I'm home." I froze in surprise, as I feared, and walked into the living room.
"And you're home early today,"
my father said. "My plans got cancelled, so I came back. By the way, who's this handsome guy?" And explained about her cancelled plans and then, without looking at me, stared intently at Jim. I felt uncomfortable with how she seemed to be sizing him up and was about to tell her to stop when Jim's face lit up at the sight of Anne.
"Nice to meet you. I'm Jim, Kate's husband,"
he said, standing up and smiling as he approached Anne. Jim was obviously charmed, and Anne introduced herself with a look that suggested she didn't mind the attention. I had a bad feeling about this, and turned to me with a sly smile.
"I heard from Dad that Kate got married, but I can't believe she married someone so handsome. Isn't he too good for plain Kate?" "Anne, how could you say such a thing?"
Dad immediately scolded her, but it had no effect on Anne. On the contrary, Anne clung to Jim, linking her arm with his and pressing her body close. "Hey, Jim. How old are you? What do you do on your days off?" And looked up at Jim with a sweet voice, trying to entice him. Rather than being bothered, Jim started conversing with her, still close, leaving me unsure of what to do.
"Anne, knock it off."
I couldn't bring myself to yell, and I was about to cry with vague anxiety when Dad sternly reprimanded Anne. She glared at me with discontent but reluctantly pulled away from Jim and left the living room. After that, conversations with Dad didn't go smoothly, and we decided to leave. However, just as we were about to step out the door, Anne, who was supposed to be in her room, came back and snuggled up to Jim again. "Jim, come again soon." She quickly stepped back, but I couldn't shake off the bad feeling, because Jim looked so happy while talking to Anne. It was clear he was captivated by her beauty. Since visiting my parents' house, his behavior had significantly changed. He started carrying his smartphone everywhere, even to the bathroom or when he went to the toilet.
"Hey, what's going on lately? Are you expecting a message from someone?"
When I asked curiously. "None of your business, Kate." Jim only responded irritably. Recently, Jim's attitude towards me had become cold, almost like he was a different person. Our conversations as a couple dwindled, and Jim began going out alone from the morning on weekends. He would always return home late at night or early the next morning. Whenever I asked where he had been, he always evaded the question. I didn't want to doubt Jim, but with such frequent occurrences, my distrust only grew. One day, I had a business trip that would keep me away for a few days. The trip was supposed to last 3 days. However, the work finished half a day early, allowing me to return home on the night of the second day. I sent a message to Jim before coming back, but there was no reply even after I arrived home. I thought it was probably because it was sudden, and he hadn't checked his smartphone, so I didn't worry about it as I opened the front door. I had a feeling someone was there. At that moment, I felt the same bad premonition as when Jim first met Anne. He wasn't in the living room, but I heard voices coming from the bedroom, so I decided to head there. I slowly opened the closed door, and I was shocked by the scene. Jim and Anne were there, naked and embracing each other.
"What are you two doing?"
I was momentarily stunned, but quickly came to my senses and shouted, "What the hell, Kate? I thought you were coming back tomorrow." Jim, apparently not having checked his smartphone, grumbled while getting dressed, showing no sign of remorse. He might have been ignoring my messages on purpose. "What the hell, you ruined a good moment." "Kate, you never know how to read the room, do you?" And glared at me with annoyance after getting dressed.
And what is going on? This is cheating.
I angrily confronted her, but Anne mocked me. What?
Jim and I agreed to this, so there's no problem. Jim said he prefers me to a plain woman like you.
Anne said triumphantly, clinging to Jim. Jim patted Anne's head with satisfaction, not even glancing my way, even though I was his wife. Watching the two of them, my intense anger quickly subsided, and my affection for Jim began to fade. While they were engrossed in each other, I slipped my hand into my pocket, took out my smartphone, and started operating it.
Hey, Jim. Recently, you've been distant and always carrying your smartphone around. Is it because you've been in contact with Anne?
I asked, trying to remain calm. Jim finally looked at me and sneered.
Yeah, that's right. And is beautiful and attractive, unlike you, Kate. It's a pity that Anne has an unattractive sister like you.
Jim mocked my appearance and praised Anne. Apparently, Jim had taken a liking to Anne when he visited my family some time ago. And felt the same way. When we were leaving, she secretly slipped a note with her contact information into his pocket. Jim sent a message to the number on that note, and that's how their relationship started, Jim explained unapologetically. Furthermore,
I only married you because I knew about your achievements and thought you'd make a good wallet. Who would want to be with someone as unattractive as you otherwise?
Hearing his insults, my vision nearly went black. Jim's serious demeanor when he confessed his feelings to me had been a lie to deceive me. Fighting back tears of frustration, I quickly called my father to report what Anne and Jim had done. My father rushed over to my house, and seeing Jim and Anne together, he was furious.
You too! What a stupid thing you've done!
However, Anne showed no remorse despite my father's anger. Jim also.
I'm sorry about this, but I've fallen in love with Anne,
he said brazenly. Even my father was taken aback by his audacity, sighing deeply.
That's enough, Anne. I'm cutting ties with you. I've overlooked your selfishness up to now, but this time I'm done. You haven't been looking for a job at all, so I won't be helping you anymore. Don't come back home.
Even when my father disowned her, her expression didn't change. Fine by me.
I'm going to be happy with Jim from now on.
Not a single word of apology to my father for raising her all these years. My disgust grew. I reached my breaking point and glared at the two of them.
Then do whatever you want. Jim, we're getting a divorce.
Yeah, fine.
That would be a relief. Don't ever show your face to me again.
His insults no longer reached my ears. I felt ridiculous for having been married to someone like him, even for a short while. I told Jim I was divorcing him, left them behind, and moved out of my apartment that very day. After moving back to my family home, I quit my job, but thanks to my father, I quickly found a new one. My father worked for a foreign company in the same industry as my previous job. There was a job opening, and my father, who held a high position, spoke to the CEO on my behalf to get me hired. By the time the divorce was finalized, Jim had also left the company, and he and Anne had moved somewhere unknown. I enjoyed a peaceful life with my father and adapted well to my new job. 2 years passed like that. By this time, I had almost forgotten about Jim and Anne, but then something unexpected happened. It was my day off, and I was doing housework when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood Jim and Anne, who had been missing. Seeing my face, they both sneered.
How have you been?
Jim said to me, as I stood there in shock at their sudden visit. You still have that plain face, huh? Seriously, Kate, still living at home and single? It's hilarious. And laughed.
What are you even doing here?
I asked, feeling exasperated, and took the opportunity to show off her left hand. A ring sparkled on her ring finger, and Jim was wearing a matching one.
We got married. Thought we'd drop by to see my dad at least once. Jim and I are living happily together now.
I gave them a cold look, wondering how she could say that to her ex-wife. I wanted to slam the door shut and kick them out immediately, but they pushed past me and forced their way inside.
Move. Is Tom here?
Jim bumped into my shoulder on purpose as he rudely entered the house. Anne, who had been disowned by my father, acted like she didn't remember any of it. Hearing the commotion, my father came out from the back of the house. He was momentarily surprised to see Anne and Jim, but quickly put on a smile.
Oh, Anne. And Jim, too. You came at just the right time. I have something to discuss with you both. Come this way.
And Jim seemed pleased by my father's reaction. They followed his lead and headed to the living room with light steps, and I trailed behind them. My father handed them some papers as they sat down on the couch, without a hint of suspicion. Their faces froze as they read the contents. It was a bill for compensation for their affair with me.
What is this? Dad, what does this mean?
Jim and Anne protested, turning pale. My father, his earlier cheerful expression replaced with a stern glare, said,
There's nothing to explain. I never forgave you for what you did to Kate. I couldn't track you down before, but now that you're here, I'm holding you accountable.
He pressed on as Anne and Jim grew more anxious.
At the time, Kate captured photos and recordings of your affair. The evidence is solid. You can't talk your way out of this.
And Jim fell silent under my father's harsh scrutiny. 2 years ago, I had secretly recorded audio and taken photos when I caught them in the act. I still had the data on my smartphone, ready to present it as proof of their infidelity.
There's no way we can come up with that kind of money,
Jim said in a despairing voice. But my father's expression,
I have another matter to discuss with you,
softened. He then retrieved a few more papers from a drawer and handed them to Anne and Jim. I already knew what they were, the deed transfer documents for this house. My father proposed giving them the house as a lifetime gift. As expected, their eyes lit up instantly, and they eagerly agreed.
So, you're giving us this house? Why didn't you say so earlier?
Then we can sell the house to pay off the compensation. All they seemed to care about was selling the house for money. Their financial situation was tight, and they quickly signed the papers, thrilled with the unexpected windfall.
So, Kate gets nothing even though she lives here with Dad?
That's sad. And sneered at me after signing the papers. She seemed to think my father wasn't giving me anything. When I didn't respond, they began preparing to leave, their business concluded.
All right, Dad, we'll be back. You two make sure to pay Kate her compensation soon,
my father said firmly, and Jim replied, Of course, Tom.
Thanks for giving us the house,
he answered dismissively. Watching them leave, still mocking me and clearly pleased with themselves, I saw my father look at me and nod with a smile. I nodded in return and started packing for a certain preparation. Actually, my father and I had originally planned to move out of this house soon. It was just at that time that Anne and Jim appeared, so my father brought up the topic of giving them an advance inheritance. After we moved out, Anne and Jim tried to sell the family home immediately, but the house, although spacious, was quite old and deteriorated. We received a call about that once.
You really stuck us with that old house. It's not worth any money at all.
As soon as the call connected, she was furious, but I had no intention of taking her seriously.
You two were the ones who happily signed the contract, weren't you?
I don't care about the money.
As long as I get the compensation, that's all I need. No way!
I ignored the disheartened N and hung up the phone. In the end, selling the house didn't come close to covering the compensation, so N and Jim had to take on debt and work non-stop every day. Jim had already changed jobs, but his salary was lower than at his previous company, making life tough. Additionally, Anne, who had always lived off her parents' and Jim's money, had never worked before. As a result, she was extremely exhausted from the unfamiliar working life at the company she somehow managed to get hired at. One day, my sister and her husband, burdened with huge debts, called me again. However, at that time, I was on a plane with my father, so my smartphone was turned off, and I didn't notice the call. We were on an international flight, out of signal range for more than half a day. After getting off the plane, I checked my smartphone and found dozens of messages from Anne and Jim. The messages were demanding a redo of the advance inheritance.
How selfish can they be? We've already given them the compensation. I don't intend to deal with those two anymore.
My father, muttering this, had also received a ton of messages on his smartphone and started deleting all of them in exasperation. I don't want to have anything to do with them either. But since we're overseas now, we won't meet them again in the future. After that, we blocked their numbers and rejected their calls, cutting off all contact from Anne and Jim. Actually, my father and I have decided to live abroad from now on. And currently, I'm remarried, and my husband was also on the plane with us. I met my husband at the company I joined thanks to my father. He was an employee sent from overseas, and he said he was attracted to my intelligence and thoughtfulness, so he asked me out, and we soon got married. The company has now launched a project to expand its business overseas, and since I can speak Spanish, I moved abroad with my husband and father. The new house we bought, thanks to my husband, who is a local, is a very luxurious detached property. Since moving into the new house, I've been able to forget all the unpleasant things from before. Now I can live freely and am working hard every day in this new place. I'm enjoying my new life, feeling fulfilled by the overseas project with my husband and father. Today marks the 50th anniversary of my marriage with my husband. As we each began to eat, our granddaughter Amelia appeared on the verge of tears, showing signs of unease. I wonder what's wrong with Amelia. As I was about to voice my concern, she tugged at her mom, Mia's sleeve, with a tearful voice, appealing. "Mom, I need to go pee-pee." Faced with her appeal, Mia's expression turned ice cold as she bluntly told Amelia.
What a hassle! Just go in your diaper.
I couldn't comprehend Mia's words. The thought of letting Amelia just wet herself in a diaper, despite her expressing the need to urinate, was beyond belief to me. A wet diaper would be heavy and uncomfortable for Amelia. Unable to hold back, I opened my mouth to reprimand Mia. Before I could speak, a clear voice echoed.
Hey, Auntie. It's not right to use Amelia for likes.
The room fell silent at the unexpected intervention. It was our grandson, Paul. Following his words, Mia was visibly flustered and left speechless. My daughter Madison seemed to realize something and pulled out her mobile phone.
Paul, by likes, do you mean this?
The screen of the mobile phone she pulled out displayed a popular video sharing website.
The secret to a 3-year-old girl's mom's way of handling her child.
Next to a cute illustrated icon, there was a biography written. Amelia is a 3-year-old girl. Could the poster of this video account possibly be Mia?
Madison, could you let me see that video?
Receiving the mobile phone from Madison, I tapped on the top video of the video account. Displayed was, "My name is Isabella. I turned 67 this year. Always putting family first, I've been married to Stephen, who has always been protective, for 50 years. We live modestly as I'm a housewife, and together we lead a simple, happy life. Though not lavish, our days are peaceful and joyful. My husband and I have 2 children. Our son, Matthew, and our daughter, Madison. It's often said how quickly children grow up, and I truly believe it. Our once needy little children have grown up, married, and left the nest. Matthew got married right after graduating from college. When he introduced us to his college classmate Mia as his spouse, I was surprised at their haste. But as long as they were happy, that was all that mattered to us. Our daughter Madison found her match at work, and after living together for 2 years, they got married. Her partner was her direct supervisor. He visited us to formally announce their engagement, impeccably dressed in a suit without a wrinkle. He was just as Madison had described, sincere and serious. Both Stephen and I felt reassured. Both Matthew's and Madison's families bought their homes not far from where my husband and I live, making it easy for them to visit often. It's a joy to have our grown children come to see us. We're blessed with grandchildren too. My first grandchild, Paul, is Madison's firstborn son. 2 years after Paul was born, Matthew and Mia were blessed with a daughter, Amelia. The grandchildren are growing up well, with Paul now a lively 5-year-old. The last time he visited, he proudly showed off his new bag, excited for starting school next year. Amelia, at the age of 3, has recently started to show interest in fashion. She's a well-behaved child for her age, with many friends at the childcare center, a kind soul. The grandchildren attend the same childcare center near my house, filled with memories from when Matthew and Madison were young. The childcare center filled with memories, once attended by both Matthew and Madison. Even though I felt a deep loneliness when our children left home, being able to see them and now their children so easily fills me with immense happiness. My joy comes from seeing my children and my adorable grandchildren. However, there's one thing that I can't help but worry about. It's how often Matthew's wife, Mia, drops off Amelia at our house. I'm truly happy to see Amelia. She's a 3-year-old granddaughter who's rapidly gaining knowledge, and I'm amazed at her growth every time I see her. But the frequency is just too much. After leaving Amelia with us, Mia would head out dressed extravagantly. Since Matthew works late, the care of Amelia falls mostly on my husband Stephen and me. Gradually, Mia started to rely on me for dropping off and picking up Amelia from the childcare center, sometimes not seeing Mia until it was almost the next day. "Grandma, where's Mom? Isn't she coming to pick me up yet?" Amelia would ask me with a sad face when Mia would come to pick her up. Amelia is still 3 years old. She must be in her prime time for seeking her mom's affection. Every time my adorable granddaughter made a sad face, it felt as if my heart was being squeezed tight. To leave such a small child like Amelia. What could Mia be doing after leaving Amelia with me? "Amelia, it's okay. Mom will come to pick you up soon." Every time Amelia looked sad, all I could do was hug her gently. On a cloudless, sunny Sunday. As usual, Mia brought Amelia over. "Good morning, Mom. I'm sorry to ask, but could you please take care of Amelia today too?" Mia, wearing a short skirt and carrying an expensive-looking bag. "Come on, hurry up," urged Mia. As Amelia walked over to me, she grabbed my hand with her small one. Without saying a word to Amelia, Mia just said to me, "I'll be back tonight," and hurried off. As Mia's figure shrank in the distance and eventually disappeared, Amelia looked down sadly. "Amelia, look, today's such a beautiful day. How about we go to the park together?" I suggested going to the park to lighten her spirits a bit. Her expression brightened. "Go to the park." I was glad to see my granddaughter smile. With that thought, I gently stroked Amelia's head. The park with a large elephant-shaped slide, Amelia's favorite, is about a 20-minute walk from our house. As we walked hand in hand to the park, someone called out to us. A woman around my age, Garcia, who has lived in the neighborhood for a long time. She approached me and Amelia and said something unbelievable.
"Oh my, Isabella. Is this your granddaughter Amelia? Matthew really married a good woman, didn't he?"
I couldn't understand her words. I can't think of Mia as a good wife. How could a mom who leaves her child every day to go out be considered a good wife? Stunned, I froze for a moment before asking.
"Garcia, what do you mean by that?"
"Mia, she's taking care of Amelia by herself since Matthew comes home late, right? She seems to be well educated and has money, so Amelia's future is secure."
"Children shouldn't have to suffer because of money issues,"
Garcia said with a laugh. Strange. No matter how much I try, the Mia in my mind doesn't match the Mia in Garcia's. Trying not to show my confusion, I replied nonchalantly and continued to the park with Amelia. That night, after 8 p.m., Mia came. After playing a lot in the park and sliding down her favorite elephant slide 5 times, Amelia, tired from all the excitement, had fallen asleep. Carefully lifting the small body so as not to wake her, I handed her over to Mia's arms. As I was about to ask Mia what she has been doing by leaving Amelia with me. "Be careful. Amelia might wake up," she said hurriedly and left. Even after Mia and Amelia had gone, Garcia's words kept running through my head. Mia, the mom who's wealthy and well-educated. The Mia I know is always out after leaving Amelia with me, and considering she graduated from the same local, small college as Matthew, I couldn't see her as wealthy. That college is hardly famous. Matthew also complained the last time we met that he works late every day but hardly gets paid, and I've never seen any sign that they have financial leeway. He said their monthly income is about average. Moreover, Mia is a housewife and does not work. I couldn't imagine Matthew's family having a high household income. "Isabella, what's wrong? You look troubled." Looking at me with concern. Stephen must have noticed something was off. After 50 years of marriage, we've shared and overcome everything together. I couldn't keep anything from him. I told Stephen about what Garcia had said. Stephen knew how sad Amelia felt being left with us by Mia every day. Yet, the notion of Garcia seeing Mia as a wealthy, well-educated mom felt odd to share. Stephen listened quietly to my story. After hearing me out, Stephen seemed to ponder for a while before saying, "So, that happened." He then took out the mobile phone he recently learned to use from Madison and started making a call. I watched Stephen on the phone for a while. I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation well enough to understand what was being said. But, Stephen always leads me in the right direction. Talking to him made my heart feel a bit lighter. I closed my eyes, wishing nothing but happiness for Amelia. A week passed, and I was sitting on the living room sofa, knitting, which is my hobby, when the phone rang. I rushed to answer it. "Hello, Mom? It's your 50th wedding anniversary with Dad this year, right? Madison and I were talking, and we want to celebrate. Do you have any free days?" It was my son, Matthew. He proposed gathering both our families, his and Madison's, to celebrate our anniversary.
"Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Stephen is off on Saturdays and Sundays, so either day is fine."
I informed Matthew of Stephen's days off. I was thrilled at the thought of our children and grandchildren wanting to celebrate our anniversary. The following Saturday night, all 3 families gathered for the first time in a while. a glamorous, high-end restaurant known for its hospitality. Matthew had made the reservation.
Wow! This is so luxurious.
As soon as we entered, Mia excitedly began taking photos of the interior.
Here, Amelia, stand there. Oh, move a bit to the right.
She was taking multiple photos of Amelia next to an expensive-looking painting. Taking photos in a high-end restaurant is generally not seen as appropriate. It can disrupt the ambience and the sound of the shutter can be intrusive, so it's polite to ask staff permission before taking pictures. Mia seemed oblivious, continuing to snap away. I was honestly concerned but didn't want to spoil the celebratory mood, so I silently watched Mia's actions.
Thank you for waiting.
The staff brought over the food. The table was adorned with dishes that looked like delicate works of art.
Now that the food is here, let's say it again. Dad, Mom, happy 50th wedding anniversary. Here's to.
Before Matthew could finish.
Wait a minute.
Mia interrupted loudly.
We need to take photos of the food before anyone touches it. So, wait.
I was taken aback. Stephen sitting next to me looked just as dismayed. Sitting across from me, Madison couldn't hold back and said,
Mia, hold on. Today is about celebrating Dad and Mom. It's not the place for taking photos. That's bad manners.
Mia, upon being told off by Madison, made a displeased face and put her mobile phone down, turning away in a huff. Matthew looked uncomfortable, hanging his head.
Dad, Mom. Once again, from me. Happy 50th wedding anniversary. Madison, Matthew. Thank you.
Although Mia's sulky behavior was concerning, Madison's words were a joy to hear. As we each started to eat, Amelia seemed restless, showing a face like she was about to cry, looking uneasy. I wondered what was wrong with Amelia. As I was about to express my concern, she tugged at Mia's sleeve, with a tearful voice, appealing. Mom, I need to go pee-pee. Mia, faced with her plea, displayed an icy cold expression before bluntly telling Amelia,
What a hassle! Just use your diaper.
I couldn't understand Mia's words. The idea of telling Amelia to just wet herself in a diaper despite expressing the need to urinate was unbelievable to me. A wet diaper would become heavy and uncomfortable for Amelia. I couldn't bear it and opened my mouth to scold Mia. Before I could speak, a clear voice rang out. Hey, Auntie. Amelia is a person, not a toy. The unexpected intervention brought silence to the room. It was Madison's son, Paul. With a stern expression, Paul continued.
It's not right to use Amelia for likes.
Mia, faced with Paul's words, with a tearful voice, appealing. Mom, I need to go pee-pee. Mia, faced with her plea, displayed an icy cold expression before bluntly telling Amelia.
What a hassle! Just use your diaper.
I couldn't understand Mia's words. The idea of telling Amelia to just wet herself in a diaper despite expressing the need to urinate was unbelievable to me. A wet diaper would become heavy and uncomfortable for Amelia. I couldn't bear it and opened my mouth to scold Mia. Before I could speak, a clear voice rang out. Hey, Auntie. Amelia is a person, not a toy. The unexpected intervention brought silence to the room. It was Madison's son, Paul. With a stern expression, Paul continued.
It's not right to use Amelia for likes.
Mia, faced with Paul's words, was visibly shaken and left speechless. Mia's treatment towards Amelia was too much to overlook. Too cruel for a mom. Madison seemed to realize something and took out her mobile phone.
Paul, are you talking about this by any chance?
The screen displayed a popular video sharing website. The Secret to Handling a 3-Year-Old Girl by her mom. Next to a cute illustrated icon, there was a biography written. Amelia is a 3-year-old girl. Could the poster of this video account possibly be Mia? Yes. This is yours, right? Chloe's mom showed it to me when I went to Chloe's house. I recalled Madison mentioning Chloe's mom before. Madison and Chloe's mom, being the same age and due to Paul and Chloe getting along well, were close friends. Madison, could I see that video, please? Receiving the mobile phone from Madison, I tapped on the top video listed on the account. The title read, How to Get a 3-Year-Old Who Hates Going to the Toilet to Go. A busy day of solo parenting by mom. Thinking how Mia always leaves Amelia with me, claiming solo parenting, I watched the video. It showed Amelia crying and Mia scolding her harshly. Knowing Amelia well from our time together, I was certain. Though her face wasn't clearly shown, this was Amelia. I recognized the flashy clothes of the mom, the same ones Mia wore when she came to pick up Amelia. Mia's tone in the video was too harsh.
Just listen and go to the bathroom.
Mia, grabbing Amelia's arm and raising her voice. Must have been holding on tightly. Amelia's thin arm appeared bruised in the video. A chill went down my spine. This was too much. With trembling hands, I tapped on the video titled, The 3-Year-Old Who Dislikes Everything. How to Fix Picky Eating. It played Mia forcibly stuffing carrots into Amelia's mouth, who complained they were too hard to eat. The video titled, Sometimes Mom Needs a Break. How to Put Your Child to Sleep Alone, showed Mia locking a protesting Amelia in the bedroom to have a drink alone. Seeing the content, I couldn't believe this was discipline. I felt the blood drain from my face.
Mia, what is this supposed to mean?
I turned to Mia, holding back rising anger, and asked quietly. That's not me. It's someone else entirely. Mia, with her eyes darting back and forth, rapidly insisted. Clearly, something was off. That's Mia's video. The person in the video is her. Steven stated firmly.
I heard from Isabella the other day. Garcia from the neighborhood said that Mia is a wealthy mom who takes care of Amelia alone while Matthew is away, and she's very dedicated to education. Hearing that made me very curious. So, I decided to check.
The room fell silent as Steven's voice echoed. Mia froze, her eyes wide open. Her body trembling slightly.
I called Garcia to ask about Mia. Mia, you asked Garcia to follow this account because you were the one posting, didn't you?
I remembered discussing with Steven what I had heard from our neighbor Garcia. The person Steven had been on the phone with that time was indeed Garcia. Madison, having listened to Steven, looked startled and stood up.
I've heard that too. Mia was going around at the childcare center asking other kids' moms to follow her video account. You wanted to become a famous video creator and asked for their support, right?
Recalling Paul's words that Chloe's mom had told him, I was surprised. Paul, Chloe, and Amelia all attend the same childcare center. It makes sense that Chloe's mom would have heard about Mia's video account. Madison's follow-up made Mia's face turn bright red as she shouted. That's not true. I didn't ask anyone. I just said if they wanted to follow, I could tell them. I said I would tell you if you followed me. Mia's words echoed in my mind. I was convinced. So, that video account was indeed Mia's.
Mia, you said earlier it wasn't you, but this is you, isn't it?
I pointed to the video showing Mia scolding Amelia from behind. Mia seemed to realize she had slipped up, her face turning pale. Watching this, Paul murmured,
getting angry and telling her to go to the toilet, or telling her to use a diaper based on how you feel. If you decide that way, Amelia would be troubled.
Paul's confident words made Mia slump in defeat. Seeing this, Matthew stood up hastily, sitting down on the floor. His eyes firmly met ours.
I didn't realize anything until Paul pointed it out. I've been staying late at work to increase our income, not understanding what was happening at home.
Tears welled up in Matthew's eyes, his voice trembling.
I didn't know Mia was constantly leaving Amelia with Mom and Dad, causing trouble and ruining a joyful occasion. I'm truly sorry to Amelia too.
Matthew deeply apologized. Tears fell onto Matthew's knees. He promised us he would talk with Mia once they got home. Hoping for Matthew and Amelia's future happiness, I watched until Matthew, taking Mia and Amelia, was out of sight. A few days later, as I was preparing dinner in the kitchen, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I saw Matthew.
Mom, sorry for the sudden visit. May I come in?
Matthew had a serious look on his face. I sensed he had something important to discuss.
Of course. This is your home too. Come on in.
I ushered Matthew into the dining room, next to the chair where Stephen was sitting. Matthew sat down across from us and began.
Dad, Mom, sorry for barging in like this. After talking with Mia, I've decided to divorce her. I came today to explain properly.
Matthew's voice was steady, his resolve clear.
I found out that Mia was habitually too harsh on Amelia. I confirmed it with Amelia. Moreover, she had accumulated a significant debt from consumer loans.
I had a feeling about what Matthew was saying. That day when Mia's video account came to light, Stephen and I had reviewed Mia's video account together. Mia's posted videos mainly consisted of disciplining Amelia and showcasing high-end brand bags and clothing. The neighbor, Garcia, thought Mia was wealthy after seeing her videos featuring luxury brand bags. She hadn't watched the videos where Mia scolded Amelia, only glanced at the titles and mistakenly believed Mia was thoroughly educating her. The luxury items Mia showcased easily surpassed $10,000. I wondered how she could afford such expensive purchases.
Was that debt for buying the brand items Mia showcased in her videos?
Matthew nodded in response to my question. Mia had incurred debt to buy luxury items and feature them on her video account. The amount ballooned as she kept borrowing more to repay her debts. Matthew was unaware of the situation because Mia disposed of any collection notices before he could see them. Publicizing luxury brands and parenting videos attracted many views and attention. Mia felt superior by garnering attention, focusing only on what would shine the most. She avoided confronting the growing debt, choosing to escape reality by going out drinking, while leaving Amelia with me. After explaining, Matthew apologized to us.
Dad, Mom. From now on, I'll prioritize Amelia over work. I'm truly sorry for the trouble I've caused. Matthew.
He mentioned he discussed the divorce and custody of Amelia with Mia again and then left. A few days later, Matthew called.
Mom, I'll be living with Amelia from now on.
Matthew and Mia had disputed Amelia's custody and reached an agreement today. Despite Mia's claim to Amelia's custody, Amelia expressed her wish to stay with Matthew. When Matthew presented the excessive scolding and confirmed Amelia's preference, Mia couldn't argue, and they agreed that Matthew would retain custody. You could hear the happiness in Matthew's voice even through the phone. After the divorce, Mia's reputation quickly deteriorated and she left town. A year passed. Matthew sold the house and now lives with us and Amelia. Mia, reportedly living alone in a distant town's old apartment, is working hard to pay child support and her debts. On a cloudless, sunny Sunday noon, Madison and Paul visited, hearing laughter from the yard while knitting on the sofa. I joined Stephen outside.
Stephen, I heard such happy voices, I had to come.
Amelia and Paul were joyfully playing ball, watched affectionately by Matthew and Madison.
Stephen, I'm so glad. Seeing them happy like this makes me truly happy.
Stephen squeezed my hand in agreement. Holding his hand back, we watched our children and grandchildren in the yard. I wished Mia had seen Amelia's smiling face instead of focusing solely on her video account's followers and views. Amelia's radiant smile shone brightly in the sunlight. We resolved to protect that smile from now on. Deep in my heart, I felt this strongly.
A healthy baby boy is here. And I've finally become a grandma.
When I called home after hearing about the birth of my eldest daughter Karen's first child, my eldest son William's wife, Ashley, excitedly said,
"Another 12 months would have been just fine too. Having the birth drag on that long would have been unusual. Anyway, I'm relieved both mother and child are healthy and there were no complications."
Then Ashley said, "Don't you feel reluctant to return home after living with your own daughter for a month? And it must be hard to part with your grandson too, right?" "That's true. Indeed, it's sad to be away from Karen, and it's tough to leave my grandson too." "You might as well stay at Karen's place forever, Elizabeth. Maybe you don't have to come back here at all?"
"Ashley, you sound like you don't want me to come back."
"Well, Elizabeth, during the month you were away, I truly enjoyed the freedom and I felt I was at peace."
"That makes it sound like I'm a nuisance to you." "Well, to be frank, Elizabeth, you are. A real boomer, you know. Frankly, I wouldn't mind if you never came back. It would be refreshing for me."
The words Ashley spoke over the phone were shocking. However, having anticipated this could happen, I calmly accepted her words.
"Well, that's good to hear."
"My name is Elizabeth. I'm a 55-year-old housewife. I married a man I met in high school when I was 20, and 2 years later, we had William, followed by Karen for years after that. Though we had our fair share of arguments, I believe our family relationship was very good. However, as if waiting to see Karen start her career, my husband passed away and went to heaven. Since both of my children were already independent, being left alone in the family home made my life very lonely. Then, one day, 2 years later, William said he had a woman he wanted me to meet and came to visit the family home. Her name was Ashley, and she worked with William at the same workplace. I fell in love with William's sincerity. I thought his mother must be a wonderful person too, and I was right," she said, making me very happy. "So, we're thinking of living with you, Mom, after we get married," William suggested, "but I shouldn't interfere with the newlyweds. It's not just my idea. Ashley wants to live with you too. Plus, when we have a child, Mom can always play with the grandchild, right?" That single sentence from William deeply moved me.
"That sounds fun. Ashley and I being women, we might find common grounds, and I can listen to her troubles or complaints about her husband too,"
I joked, to which William seriously replied, "Complaints about her husband? Did you have complaints about Dad? It's just an example. This kid takes after his dad, serious and can't even take a joke." Regardless, my eldest son and his wife ended up living with me. Also, Ashley promised to quit her job at the time of her marriage and dedicate herself to being a housewife for me and William. "Please teach me more and more about household chores." I thought my son had married an overly perfect woman and felt proud of William. However, 3 months after they got married, Ashley's attitude began to change gradually. Ashley took the initiative to go grocery shopping, but what started as an hour-long outing eventually extended to 2, then 3 hours. Sorry, Elizabeth.
When I went to buy vegetables, a friend emailed me that it was cheaper in the next town. I thought it would save on food expenses and help you out.
Such things are forgivable once or twice, but when it happens 4 or 5 times a week, my irritation grew.
Ashley, if you're going to be late, a message would be nice. You have a mobile phone, don't you?
Ashley frowned as if it were a hassle and said, Sorry, Elizabeth.
When I went shopping, I ran into a friend from my school days, and we ended up having tea. You could have at least sent a message, couldn't you?
I'm sorry. I'll report in advance from now on. The next morning, Ashley had a carefree smile on her face.
Today, I have a lunch date with a friend. I reported in advance just like you told me to, so there shouldn't be any problem, right? That means I won't need lunch today. Please take care of the rest.
Then, the very next day, Ashley, having applied bold makeup and dressed in branded clothes, said,
Today, I've made plans to go to karaoke with friends, so I'll leave the housework to you.
Didn't I tell you last week that I was going to teach you my special dish today? Have you forgotten about that promise?
That can be done anytime. My promise with my friends is just for today, so I really can't cancel.
Allowing even a single act of selfishness seemed to have been the mistake. After that, Ashley continued to find reasons to go out every day, dumping all the household chores on me as if it were natural. Moreover, completely exhausted from playing, Ashley would come home and taste the food I had prepared and say,
Isn't this dish a bit bland? Young people like me prefer a bit more spice. This needs to be redone.
She had the audacity to lecture me, as if she were in a position to do so. Then one day,
I want to come over to hang.
I received a rare call from Karen. Maybe I should talk to her about it. I've avoided nagging Ashley to prevent worsening the problem, but that might be complicating things. I wondered what Karen, who is of Ashley's generation, would think of the situation. I thought her perspective could be enlightening. However, sitting on the sofa, Karen seemed hesitant to speak, frequently starting and then stopping.
What's wrong? It's not like you. If you have something to say, just say it.
Then Karen, taking a deep breath with her eyes closed, said, I'm thinking of getting married.
Married? Really? Congratulations! So, who is the person?
He's a coworker, and we've been dating for 6 months. And, well, I'm pregnant with his child.
Oh my, that's quite something. But no matter what, if you're happy, that's all that matters to me. Congratulations, Karen.
Thank you. I was really scared coming here today, thinking you'd be against it. I'm so glad I did.
Why would I be against my daughter's marriage? It's a bit unconventional to be pregnant before marriage by old standards, but I won't oppose your choice. I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Karen must have been tormented by anxiety, as she began to cry tears of relief upon arriving here.
Come on, you're going to be a mother. Be strong.
I was so focused on encouraging Karen that the atmosphere no longer seemed right for discussing Ashley's issue. In the end, Karen left that day without me having mentioned anything about Ashley. I'm going to be a grandma too. I thought William would be first, but Karen has grown up before I knew it. While suppressing the urge to dance around, I checked my bank account. I hadn't spent much money since my husband passed away, but I thought I might splurge a bit for my daughter's baby shower.
Oh, what's this?
The moment I checked the account, I was confused by an unexpected situation. A significant amount of money had been withdrawn. Not just once or twice, but repeatedly over the last 3 months. What could this mean? Worried, I asked Ashley when she returned home from her outing.
Do you have any idea about this?
Ashley frowned and said,
Elizabeth, are you suspecting me of withdrawing money from your account without permission? Of course, I'm not thinking that far. It's just that it happened in our household, so I thought if you knew anything, you could tell me.
Then William came home from work.
William, Elizabeth is suspecting me of withdrawing money from her bank account without permission. I'm not accusing you of stealing. I'm just puzzled about the sudden disappearance of the account's money.
William looked carefully at the bank account information.
Money has been withdrawn almost every week. Do you have any idea what this could be about?
I have no idea. That's what's so unsettling. Then Ashley, with a mean smirk, said,
Elizabeth, why don't you go to the hospital for a checkup? Maybe get tested for Alzheimer's or dementia. A test? Ashley, do you suspect I might have such a disease?
It's not about suspicion.
Not remembering withdrawing money from your account seems pretty serious, doesn't it? I heard it's better to deal with these things early for easier treatment later.
Ashley spoke as if she had already concluded I was suffering from dementia, but I didn't have the confidence to argue back.
That's true. I certainly don't want to think Mom could have dementia, but early detection is crucial. Why not just take the test to be safe?
I'll think about it. Don't forget to get tested. The wedding of Karen went by smoothly.
Congratulations, Karen. Build a happy family.
Thank you, Mom. But how about you? Are you okay? Karen had reason to be concerned. William seems busy with business trips, but why is Ashley, his wife, not at home either? When I came over for wedding planning or to talk about my pregnancy, Ashley was always out.
I'm also wondering what she's up to.
I laughed it off, but Ashley was not just going out for lunch or karaoke with friends. Lately, she had even started traveling.
You're William's wife. Don't you think it's strange to go on trips with friends so often?
Since William is away on business anyway, it's no problem if I go traveling.
If there's some law against a wife traveling while her husband is away, please let me know. There's no law, but just think a bit more about common sense.
Ashley frowned annoyingly.
I've heard that talk dozens of times. You might have forgotten, Elizabeth, but repeating the same story is a sign of early dementia, or so I've heard.
Ashley, you're making fun of me again.
I'm not making fun. As your daughter-in-law, I'm worried.
What's up? Did you get checked out at the hospital? Or did you forget you were supposed to go? Laughing crudely, Ashley clapped her hands. I decided to go to the hospital the next day for a cognitive function test to convince myself. The specialist confirmed.
There's absolutely no problem. If we look at your brain age, it's like that of someone in their 20s.
This left me without a clear explanation for the large amounts of money being withdrawn from my account. The withdrawals from the account continued to occur repeatedly. If it wasn't a mistake in my memory. One day, Karen came to visit the family home. Her belly had visibly grown much larger than before. I thought I should talk to you about something. I confided in my daughter about the unnatural disappearance of money from my account.
Of course, the doctor said there were no abnormalities in my cognitive tests. That's what scares me.
Karen listened silently to my story.
I understand.
And then nodded.
If it's come to this, there's only one possibility. It must be someone who has regular access to the house. A one-time occurrence could be a passerby burglar, but repeated incidents naturally lead to suspicion of someone inside.
Karen then made a suggestion.
Let's flush out the culprit.
How do we do that?
We'll intentionally leave the house empty to let the culprit get careless. We'll catch them in the act of reaching for the debit card, thinking no one is home. It's a straightforward plan.
I wonder if it will really work. Fortunately, I'm about to give birth.
So, Mom, you'll be helping me with the childbirth,
which means leaving the house empty for a while.
I see. That would make it a natural reason to be away.
At the same time, we'll install a small security camera in the room with the closet. My husband knows a lot about this stuff, so let's have him do it. A few days later, I told William and Ashley.
So, I'll be going to Karen's place for about a month to help out, leaving everything else in your care, Ashley.
Mom, won't Ashley be lonely by herself?
If I didn't have business trips, I could be there for her all the time, but
William showed concern for his wife, but Ashley herself said,
Elizabeth, don't worry about us and take your time, even if it's for a month or two.
I'm not going on a vacation. If the birth got delayed by 2 months, that would be serious. Thus, William and Ashley readily agreed to my leaving home for a month. A month passed, and Karen gave birth to a healthy baby boy.
He's born. A healthy baby boy. I'm a grandma now.
When I called home, Ashley replied excitedly.
She could have stayed pregnant a bit longer. Like I said before, if the birth had been prolonged, wouldn't it be odd? Anyway, I'm relieved that both mother and child are healthy. Don't you feel reluctant to return home after staying with your daughter for a month? And it must be hard to part with your grandson too, right?
Yes.
Indeed, it's sad to be away from Karen and tough to leave my grandson. You might as well stay at Karen's place forever, Elizabeth.
Maybe you don't have to come back here at all?
Ashley, you sound like you don't want me back. Well, Elizabeth, during the month you were away, I truly enjoyed the freedom and I felt I was at peace. So, it's like I'm a nuisance to you?
Yes. Frankly, Elizabeth, you are. You don't have to come back at all.
It would be refreshing for me too.
Ashley's words over the phone were shocking. However, I had anticipated something like this could happen. I calmly accepted her words.
Well, that's good to hear.
After replying in a monotone voice, I resolved to take action against Ashley. Karen, who had safely given birth, was discharged from the hospital. Returning home, Karen took a deep breath and said, "It's definitely more relaxing at home than in the hospital."
I'll help as much as I can.
I said so, gently stroked my grandson's face. Then William arrived, saying he was bringing baby supplies as a gift for his sister's childbirth. Congratulations, Karen. Looks like my sister beat me to it. So, Mom, what's this talk about? William's visit to Karen's home wasn't just for the childbirth celebration. I felt heavy-hearted about having to discuss something so unsuitable on such a joyous day. Exchanging looks with Karen, who was fully aware of the situation, I said,
"There's something I absolutely must discuss with you."
That kind of introduction makes me a bit scared. William scratched the back of his head and laughed, but seeing the serious expressions on mine and Karen's faces, he stopped laughing.
"First, there's some footage I want you to see."
Signaling this, Karen's husband projected the video data they had prepared on a laptop.
This footage was secretly recorded at the family home during the month Mom was taking care of me.
Karen said in a serious tone.
"What do you mean by secretly recording our home?"
Confused, William watched as the footage played, showing,
"Is that Ashley on the screen? What the hell is she doing?"
Shocked by what unfolded, William opened his mouth.
"This closet, isn't this the closet where Mom's debit card was kept?"
Witnessing this, Karen spoke up.
"That's undeniable evidence of Ashley repeatedly taking Mom's account's debit card without permission. She did it habitually, probably feeling safe with Mom away. So, the recent unexplained withdrawals from Mom's account were all her doing? It wasn't because of Mom's dementia. It's ridiculous to think I have dementia. I even saw a doctor who joked that I have the brain age of someone in their 20s. Not just that. Suspecting Ashley might have taken more than just from Mom's bank account, we decided to install cameras throughout the house, just in case."
As Karen said this, her husband displayed footage from the living room.
"What's this? Why is she letting a man other than me into our home?"
Seeing another man in the footage, William shouted. The video showed Ashley and another man boldly entering our home and embracing each other.
It wasn't just once or twice. Unaware we had installed cameras, this woman, taking advantage of William's business trips and Mom's absence, met with this man almost daily,
Karen said with a bitter expression.
Seeing this, I no longer wanted to return to this house. It's desecrated memories of us, our father, and the home we cherished.
I couldn't help but grimace and express my feelings of hatred.
I'd rather sell that house than live with that woman. Karen and I discussed it, and I've decided to rent an apartment nearby.
Learning the whole truth, William burst into laughter.
So that's what it was. I had a feeling something was off for a while now. It's just that she kept getting brighter and more beautiful day by day, but somehow she seemed to avoid me. If there's another man, it makes sense why my wife's attitude became distant. But let's hold off on selling the house just a bit longer. I have some preparations I want to make first. Because I have an idea about the man in the footage.
William, you know this man?
I think it's definitely him. Now, I just need to gather evidence proving Ashley's relationship with this man, and then proceed with the divorce and claim compensation. Could you give me a little time? Understood. I'll leave the rest to you.
3 weeks later, William informed me. Everything's ready. Returning home with my family for the first time in a while.
Can you still say that you didn't do anything?
They confronted Ashley with the pieces of evidence.
Not only did you bring another man into the house besides stealing from my bank account, but I will also have you return every penny you stole. Of course, I will also file for divorce and claim compensation for the affair. I'm speechless to find out you're still involved with your ex-boyfriend, Steven.
Ashley showed no sign of disturbance or guilt.
So it finally came out.
She reacted as if merely caught in a prank.
The only reason I married someone like you was for the salary and because this house was in a fancy neighborhood. That's all there was to it. All this time, you've been deceiving me and Mom? What other benefits were there? My true love has always been Steven. I am a woman of fidelity. I would use even you and your mother to be happy with Steven.
You were planning to marry Steven? When I asked with a heavy heart, Ashley matter-of-factly said,
After you pass away, the inheritance goes to William, right? Then I planned to divorce under various pretenses, so half of the property would become mine. After that, I intended to marry Steven. I understand your true intentions now. I no longer wish to live in such a tainted house. I've decided to let go of this house and rent an apartment elsewhere.
Following my declaration, William also said,
I too will divorce you and leave this house. I'll rent an apartment somewhere and start my life over.
Do as you like.
I have no use for you anymore. I'll sign the divorce papers. And Elizabeth, since you're at it, why not transfer all rights to this house to me?
Ashley looked at me triumphantly.
Understood. Do whatever you want with everything?
I calmly accepted Ashley's demands and proceeded with all the paperwork for the change of ownership without any complaints. Several weeks later, Ashley's mother called my mobile phone.
Bring William and come to the house right now.
Ashley's mother, Angela, summoned us in a scolding tone to Ashley's parental home. Not only Angela, but also her father, Donald, was there, arms crossed and frowning deeply.
You have some nerve showing up. We've heard everything from our daughter. You are an utterly disgraceful family. Don't you feel ashamed? I don't understand what you're saying at all. Elizabeth, you've been harassing my daughter every day, using your position as a mother-in-law, haven't you? She says just thinking about it makes her feel sick and cry.
This was unexpected for me.
William, I also heard you've been having an affair with a girl from work and not giving Ashley any living expenses. The whole family lacks common sense. On top of that, you're pushing all the property and utility bills onto Ashley.
It seemed Ashley had deceived her parents with convenient lies.
If that's the case, please look through these documents first.
I presented Donald and Angela with evidence of Ashley's affair and proof that she had been withdrawing large sums of money from my bank account without permission.
This must be some kind of mistake.
I can't believe it's come to this.
It's understandable that you'd want to believe in your daughter, but we have legal representation. If we go to court, you'll be at a disadvantage. It seems you're not aware that Ashley and I have divorced.
When William chimed in, Ashley's parents exchanged a look of utter surprise.
And please listen to this audio recording.
I then played a recording of Ashley insisting on transferring the house rights to her, in front of her parents. Their expressions turned visibly pale, evoking pity from those watching.
Moreover, the compensation for the emotional distress Ashley caused me and my son has yet to be paid.
I delivered this statement decisively. Ashley's parents stood up from the sofa as if on cue and began to apologize profusely.
We're sorry, even though we didn't know. It's all because we spoiled our daughter. Yes, it's all our fault for raising such a selfish daughter. Come on, Ashley, apologize properly.
Even when scolded by her mother, Ashley retorted,
This is stupid. Why should I apologize to these people? I'm the victim here. I wasn't told the house still had a 5-year loan. And Steven has been hard to contact lately. He hasn't transferred any money, so I can't even afford to live. Why can't I reach him? Ashley, struggling with living expenses and deceiving your own parents.
But you thought you'd get through this by being cunning, didn't you?
That's right. I thought if I cried to my parents, they would take my side and sort everything out. For that, I had to have you and the others out to be the bad guys.
We're truly sorry. Our daughter has caused trouble from start to finish. We will make sure she transfers the compensation. Donald apologized repeatedly. Later, as promised, money was transferred from Ashley, but it was forcibly done by her parents, and I could somewhat imagine Ashley sulking about it. Ashley's parents soon contacted me.
We borrowed money to make the transfer. From now on, we must make our daughter go through hard times.
Angela revealed her daughter's plight, followed by Donald.
We've cut ties with Ashley as parents. She's working day and night, but we won't reach out to her anymore.
Months later, as William began to enjoy living alone with his emotional wounds healed and his life becoming more comfortable, Ashley suddenly visited his apartment.
Listen, William. Steven had a wife.
I was there at the time and sarcastically said,
You were meeting other men while having a husband yourself. Isn't that your own fault?
Ashley glared at me.
Now Steven's wife is demanding compensation from me. I'm always the victim, yet why do I always end up suffering?
So, Ashley, what do you want today?
I was wondering if you could help me get back together with William. Otherwise, I don't know how I'll manage to live.
Both William and I had completely lost all fondness for Ashley, so there was no way we would agree to reconcile.
You and I are strangers now. It's a nuisance having you here, so please leave.
William tried to dismiss her coldly, but Ashley stayed put like a rock in front of the apartment. Unable to tolerate it any longer, William called the police. Ashley received a stern warning from the officers and reluctantly left. I'm now making new friends in my new apartment. Elizabeth, there's a sale at the supermarket this weekend. Let's go together.
There's a new restaurant nearby. Would you like to try it out sometime?
Karen occasionally brings her child to visit my apartment. Seeing their budding speech and adorable smiles, I no longer feel lonely. My only remaining goal is to see William truly happy. With that aim, I'm enjoying my time leisurely and happily.
You're nothing but a useless parasite. Get out of your parents' house now.
As I was moving down the hallway in my wheelchair, I was suddenly confronted by my brother's wife, Angela. Thinking it was just her usual harassment, I pretended not to hear. But then, she stood in front of me, blocking my way. Next thing I knew, I felt like I was floating, followed by a jolt of pain.
Ouch!
Angela had suddenly pushed me and my wheelchair to the floor. I felt a sharp pain in my arm and ended up crawling on the floor. Then, with a pleased smile, she kicked my wheelchair out of my reach. Why are you doing this to me?
You're in the way. I'm not giving back your wheelchair until you agree to leave your parents' house.
Angela always looked down on me, treating me horribly without remorse. At that moment, I realized I could never understand her and decided to leave the house I had grown up in.
Now this big house and all its wealth are mine.
Angela's face lit up with a devilish grin, delighted by the situation. At that moment, I vowed revenge against the truly terrifying Angela, who seemed willing to do anything for her own desires. I am Margaret, 33 years old. 3 years ago, on a rainy day, I fell down the stairs at the station. The fall caused a spinal injury, leaving me paraplegic, dependent on my wheelchair. When I first realized I couldn't move my legs, I cried tears of frustration. But now, I've accepted my reality and have adapted to work from home, doing what I can. I've always lived in my parents' house, which was remodeled 2 years ago to be wheelchair accessible. Being self-conscious, I mostly stay indoors. In my family home, I also live with my brother Kevin and his wife Angela, who married a year ago. Angela, my brother's wife, is 3 years older than me. I was initially excited to have Angela like a real sister, but that was a big mistake. The day Angela moved in, after unpacking, she smiled at me sweetly and asked in a gentle voice,
Now that we're living together, I'd love to have a heart-to-heart in your room to get along better, Margaret.
I'd love that. I really want to be friends with you, Angela. With high hopes for a pleasant future, I entered my room with Angela pushing my wheelchair. But as soon as the door closed, her kind expression vanished. She frowned like a different person and said something shocking. You know, you're an eyesore. Excuse me.
Are your ears as bad as your legs? Your presence in that wheelchair is an eyesore.
I was stunned by Angela's drastic change and managed a weak, uncertain smile, saying, You're joking, right? To which she berated me even more.
I hate jokes. Everything I said is my honest opinion. But you just said you wanted to get along.
That was just an excuse to be alone with you. Hearing this unexpected statement, my mind went into a panic and my hand, covering my mouth, started trembling. Wait a minute. I can't comprehend this. Does she hate me? As I took a deep breath trying to understand what was said, she hurled more insults at me.
People who live leisurely at home without working are called parasites.
Why are you being so harsh? Did you come to my room just to say these things? Yes.
I feel sick having someone who only consumes money living in this house.
I never imagined she could be this kind of person. My mind was still in turmoil, but I knew I had to respond. Looking her in the eye, I said,
I am working and paying for my living expenses. Don't lie. How can you work while staying at home? Are you stupid?
I explained that I work from home, but she didn't believe me at all. Instead, she demanded that I, a useless freeloader, leave the house. I was shocked by such harsh words from her, whom I had only met a few times since my brother's marriage. Confused and unsure what to do, she said, I can't stand even breathing the same air as you, and left the room. Alone, I kept replaying her words in my head. Should I tell my brother? As I was about to open my door, I remembered my past self. After falling down the stairs and losing consciousness, I awoke in the hospital to find my legs immobile. At that time, I couldn't accept this new reality immediately. Though I claimed to live facing forward, in reality, I hardly left my home, conscious of other people's eyes. Maybe Angela is in a similar situation. Instead of upsetting everyone by telling my parents and brother, I decided to wait and see. Surely, if we live together, we'll understand each other eventually. With that thought, I calmed my shaking heart. I tried to act cheerful around Angela, initiating conversations to get along better. But her cruel behavior only worsened day by day. She played the kind sister when our parents and brother were around, but as soon as they left for work, her harassment began. You don't work or pay, so you don't have the right to eat. One day, she threw away my lunch as soon as I sat down at the dining table.
I've told you before, I do work, and I contribute to the food expenses. I have the right to eat. If you lie too much, your nose will grow like Pinocchio's.
No matter how much I explained, Angela wouldn't listen. She insulted me and intentionally blocked my room door with objects to trap me inside. Unable to endure anymore, I told my parents and brother when they returned from work. I started talking when Angira is around, making sure she couldn't deny it.
I'm having trouble because Angela threw away my food and trapped me in my room. That's not true. She said she didn't like what I made and threw it away. I was cleaning and accidentally left the vacuum cleaner in front of Margaret's room. I'm sorry for not being useful. Margaret, I'm sorry for making you feel bad.
Angela acted like an actress, tearfully apologizing to me, and my parents and brother were completely deceived. I couldn't win against this. I started thinking that it would be better not to engage with her. After that, I hardly talked and spent more time in my room. One day, a year later, as I was returning to my room after breakfast, she started yelling at me in the hallway.
Still planning to stay in your parents' house? You're so persistent. I'm sick of this pest. You useless parasite, get out now.
Being used to her harassment, I pretended not to hear. But then she stood in front of me, blocking my path. Please move aside. As I tried to push past, Angela laughed and forcefully kicked the side of my wheelchair. I was hit by a severe impact and toppled over before I could steady myself. A sharp pain shot through my arm. I tried to get up, but I couldn't right my wheelchair lying on its side. Crawling on the floor in pain and humiliation, I looked up to see she standing over me, looking smug. Desperately looking up, I saw her trying to suppress a laugh, her arms crossed, clearly enjoying the situation. How pathetic you look. What a spectacle.
Please, help me.
Well, if I must.
There.
She kicked my wheelchair even further away, putting it out of my reach.
Don't you think this is too much? I have to do this to get rid of a parasite, don't I? Give me back my wheelchair now. Not until you say you're leaving this house.
So, what will it be? Looking down on me and acting so cruelly with ease, I realized I could never understand her. I decided to leave the home I'd grown up in.
Fine. I'll move to a high-rise condominium.
A high-rise condominium? As if you could afford that. Your denial is just sad.
I don't care if you don't believe me. I'm leaving. Please return my wheelchair. Just wait for the caretaker who's due soon. I'm finally getting rid of the nuisance. Now this big house and all its wealth will be mine. Get on your precious wheelchair and start packing.
That's when I realized her true nature. She would go this far for her own desires. Such a terrifying person. She looked like nothing but a devil to me, leaving me on the floor without returning my wheelchair, and then leaving the house. The floor was cold. And I was getting colder. I need to do something. Lying in the hallway in the middle of winter, my body temperature dropped rapidly. I tried to crawl to my wheelchair, but my injured arm was too weak to move. What if I stay like this? Shivering from the cold, I heard the front door open, and the caretaker arrived.
Help me, please!
Hearing my cry, the caretaker rushed over in a panic. Rubbing my injured arm unconsciously, the caretaker noticed something was wrong and immediately took me to the hospital. Luckily, there were no fractures, just bruises, so I was prescribed some ointment. Back at home, filled with frustration, I started preparing to move. I won't let this go. I'll show everyone her true nature. And so, the day of my move arrived. Angela had finished breakfast and was getting ready to leave. Hurrying to the entrance, she said to me, "Make sure you clean up and leave before I come back. And never return to this house."
Don't worry. I'll leave without leaving a trace.
Then goodbye. Forever. She left in unusually high spirits, her voice lively. I wonder what face she'd make if she knew the tragedy about to befall her. Get ready, my plan is almost complete. Despite saying this, it was hard to leave my cherished home. I said my farewells, touching the pillars and walls for the last time. Goodbye, my dear home. Thank you for everything. As the moving truck drove away, I watched the house disappear from view with a sense of longing. And true to my word to Angela, I moved into the top floor of a high-rise condominium. Watching the outside view, evening came before I knew it. The setting sun peeked through the buildings, illuminating my face.
So beautiful. I can see this every day from now.
Despite everything, I was filled with hope for my new life when my mobile phone rang. Seeing Angela's name on the screen, I calmly answered the call.
What's going on? The house is empty.
I've moved out, as you can see. I'm busy, so I'm hanging up now.
Wait. Who gave you permission to do this? There's no TV, no air conditioner.
I bought everything in the house, so no permission was needed.
What? Don't be ridiculous. Return everything.
I won't give back what's mine. By the way, I paid for the house's renovation and utilities. I should be asking you for money.
What? You're kidding, right?
I'm serious, as you hate jokes. And yes, I moved to a high-rise condominium. The view from the top floor is amazing. I took the opportunity to tell her the truth she never listened to. Did you realize you were bullying someone who provided you food and shelter?
That's impossible. I never took anything from you. How did a homebody like you make money?
I'm a stock trader.
That's a transparent lie.
I worked for the securities company before my accident. Trading stocks is easy for me. I have $3 million in savings now.
Wait. Are you saying you, not your parents, are the wealthy one?
Yes. I let my parents and Kevin save their earnings for retirement.
What? I married into the family thinking they were rich.
Angela's true intentions spilled out. I knew it but had to ask, and she confirmed my suspicions. Didn't you love Kevin?
Love doesn't fill the stomach. I thought you were rich after seeing the big house. I was so fooled.
You misunderstood on your own. By the way, I invest in properties too. I own several apartments besides this condo. The wealthy and victorious one is me. You misjudged, sadly.
What? I won't forgive you.
Make a fuss if you want. You should worry about yourself.
Why?
I've put that house up for sale.
We're still living there. That's terrible.
My parents and Kevin moved with me, so you're left alone. Oh, and Kevin has blocked your calls and emails.
What?
I almost laughed at her loud and shocked reaction. She frantically tried to contact Kevin, but of course, got no response. I revealed more truths she didn't know. I owe it to you, Angela, for pushing me in the wheelchair and causing my injury. Thank you.
What?
The caretakers saw everything and told my family, so they helped me. Actually, we had secretly planned to move out without you. Moreover, my brother prepared something to definitely trap you. Remember last night when Kevin suggested you go out today to make moving easier? That was to clear the house before you knew it. She was silent for a moment, then suddenly changed her tone, trying to sound sweet. Margaret, I think I went a little too far. Let's be close from now on. Okay? Telling such lies will make your nose grow like Pinocchio's. I wish we could be real sisters, Margaret. I can't stand this nonsense. By the way, this whole conversation is on speaker, and my family is listening. No one will forgive you. Kevin is divorcing you, so please live well on your own. She, realizing she couldn't persuade me, made a last-ditch effort.
Kevin, can you hear me? You're joking about the divorce, right?
He doesn't seem interested in responding. He's laughing and enjoying your desperate situation.
Shut up. Let's talk properly. I'll find your condo and come right now. Tell me where. Please.
Everyone burst into laughter at her thinking she could still be forgiven. But knowing her, she might try to find our new home, so I sternly warned her. If you force your way into the condo, I'll sue you for trespassing.
Don't say such scary things.
I'm serious. And about the injury and mental distress you caused, I'll sue for compensation. I have the hospital reports, so you can't escape. pay $20,000.
I'll be broke. You don't need the money, you're rich.
I'm asking for compensation to make you reflect. If you don't agree, talk to my lawyer. Goodbye forever.
I don't care about poor Kevin, but I don't want to lose wealthy you. I apologize. Please forgive me.
No way, you fool. I hung up forcefully. I gave Angela's photo to the condo's doorman, warning him about her, so security will respond if she steps foot inside. My brother, not wanting to see Angela's face anymore, had a lawyer I know finalize the divorce. Angela, who squandered my brother's earnings, only got $2,000 in the property settlement. She was living in the house we put up for sale, but the real estate buyer found her and she was fined for trespassing. Angela, now a criminal, is shunned even by her family and is lost without a home. I demanded the promised $20,000 in compensation. We will make sure she pays. Our family is living spaciously in a new high-rise condo, enjoying every day. Although I liked my big detached house, the view from the expansive windows, unobstructed by my wheelchair, is refreshing. The city lights at night bring a new joy.
There is no seat of mine.
Olivia, oh, your seat? I cancelled it.
Ava.
Today is the wedding ceremony of my dear brother, Jack. Me, his real sister, not having a seat at the groom's side is unthinkable. What do you mean by cancelled?
Oh dear. I mean exactly what I said. Your seat isn't here anymore.
Laughing almost cartoonishly, adorned with numerous necklaces and bracelets, is Ava, the bride's mom. To me, she's just my sister-in-law's mom, not someone I usually interact with much. But, as it turns out, Ava and I have a bit of history. I'm Olivia, a 25-year-old singer. Since childhood, I've pursued my dream, enduring hardships and disappointments, but 3 years ago, I passed a crucial audition. That led to hit songs, and now I'm busy with solo concerts and TV appearances. I met my husband, Michael, at work, and we married a year ago. Both my professional and personal life are thriving. It's all thanks to the support of my family. Especially my brother, Jack, who's always been here for me. He had been claiming to me as, "I'm your first fan since my debut." However, in the entertainment industry, I sometimes face criticism for being frivolous or chasing dreams endlessly. When Jack's marriage was decided, my biggest concern was exactly this. I worried if Jack would be badmouthed by his wife's family because of my career, but Mary and Ava, his wife and mother-in-law, smiled and supported my work. I was so happy with that, yet I never imagined today's wedding turning out like this. Come on, how long will you stand there? You're obstructing the other guests. Please leave quickly.
What are you talking about? Today is my brother's important wedding. I'm definitely attending. How many times do I have to tell you? You don't have a seat. Just go home immediately.
Then, a staff member from the venue, seemingly who unable to watch any longer, came to help. If there's been a mistake, we can arrange a seat for you. What would you like to? It's fine. Today is my daughter's wedding. The presence of someone like her would only lower the grade of the ceremony. No need for unnecessary interference. What do you mean by that?
Don't you get it? I don't want someone with a frivolous job like yours in my family. I cannot let that comment go. Please retract it.
Where did I go wrong?
I'm proud of my job.
Just because you're a bit famous, you act so high and mighty. You're just a one-hit wonder, aren't you? You'll fade away soon enough. I was so stunned by her words that I fell silent. My husband Michael, perhaps out of anger, had gone pale and was glaring at Ava.
Was Ava really so pleased with our situation?
She dramatically spread her arms wide with a triumphant look. Her heavy bracelets clanged loudly. If you really want to attend badly, there's one condition. If you can meet it, you're welcome at the wedding. All right, let's hear it for now. Though I was thinking, what kind of condition? I prepared to listen. Ava's face twisted into an even more satisfied, mocking smile.
Quit your singing career. Then I'll allow you to attend.
I couldn't help but raise my voice at Ava's outrageous suggestion. Ava snorted arrogantly. Her expression seemed to say, "There's no way you could do that."
She knew I couldn't accept such a condition and seemed to enjoy seeing me struggle.
You can't do it, can you? You always put yourself first. Your job is more important to you than your own brother, isn't it?
Such a selfish and detestable woman. There's no place for you here. Just leave.
Shocked by her cruel words, my husband Michael started to retort, but I pulled his arm to stop him.
Michael looked at me unhappily, but I shook my head slightly and then faced Ava squarely. Understood. Then, we'll leave here.
What?
Michael, let's go.
Wait a minute. This is your own brother's wedding, are you sure? Ava seemed panicked as I began to leave the venue, was saying nonsensical things.
My reaction must have been quite different from what Ava had expected.
Perhaps she thought I would be crying, begging, "Please let me attend the ceremony."
Right after leaving the venue, I heard Ava's screeching voice. How insolent!
But I didn't stop. As I walked down the corridor, I heard someone calling my name from behind. Turning around, I saw Jack running towards me, looking frantic.
Sis, I heard everything. This is unbelievable, truly unacceptable. Jack, calm down a bit. How can I stay calm in this situation? Michael and I had to soothe an agitated Jack together.
Once he calmed down a bit, I took a deep breath and faced him.
I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to cause trouble on your special day.
This isn't something you should apologize for, sis. But why would Ava say something like that?
Well,
anyway, now things happened like this, I'm calling off the wedding. Then it's my turn to be surprised.
What? Wait a minute. That's too much.
I can't have a wedding feeling like this.
But what about Mary? I'm fine with it.
Surprised by the unexpected voice, I turned to see Mary standing there. Dressed in a beautiful white wedding gown, Mary looked like a fairy, but her face was clouded with sadness. This pained my heart even more. I'm sorry that my mom's behavior. I don't understand why she did that.
It's not Mary's fault.
But I can't go on with the wedding knowing I've caused you such distress. We'll explain it to the guests. So, sis, don't worry about it.
All right. But don't push yourselves too hard. Sis, I'm sorry. I'll come and apologize properly later. I'm very sorry.
Mary. Tears streamed down Mary's face as she apologized repeatedly, and I felt like crying too.
What should have been the happiest day of her life was ruined. This made me even angrier at Ava.
But there was nothing more we could do there. Michael and I left the venue with feeling terrible. According to Jack, who called me that night. When Ava heard the wedding was cancelled, she was furious. Seemingly oblivious that she was the cause, although she ranted about the preparations and the money spent. However, an angry, tearful Mary and Ava's husband, now aware of the situation, scolded her, and she reluctantly backed down. Jack and Mary told the guests that a family member had fallen ill as an apology.
Not revealing the truth was probably their way of showing some mercy to Ava.
Thinking of their feelings, I felt deeply saddened. How did things end up like this?
While Jack and Mary's support was comforting, but I couldn't help feeling down, blaming myself for being a singer.
A week later, Michael and I visited Jack's house. We had received a call from Jack and Mary, who wanted Ava to join them in making a formal apology.
They should be the ones coming to our house. Ava absolutely refuses to do that. Are they really sorry then? I think so too, but considering Jack and Mary's feelings.
I didn't want to see Ava, but after hearing Jack and Mary's earnest apologies on the phone, I couldn't refuse. Besides, I had something important to resolve.
Sis, sorry for bothering you today.
Mom, come on, greet them properly. They apologized repeatedly as we arrived. Ava, looking displeased, merely muttered, "Oh, hello."
Seeing this, an almost tearful Mary scolded her.
I was beyond anger, so already wanting to leave, but I didn't. Because Jack urged, "Please come in." Michael and I sat down. Opposite side was Jack and Mary, with Ava also seated.
"It's about,"
Mary began.
"I wanted to be a singer. It's embarrassing now."
"There's nothing embarrassing about it. Mary has more talent than anyone."
"Mom, please be quiet." As you can see, she was more enthusiastic about me becoming a singer than I was.
"Singing is the perfect career for Mary." "Please, just be quiet." Ava, about to start shouting, was silenced by Mary's firm words.
Of course, singing was my dream too. But as I realized there were better singers out there, my desire faded. Yet, Mom insisted I become a singer. So, 3 years ago, in my graduation year, I promised the audition I took that would be my last. If I passed, I'd pursue singing, but if I failed, I'd give up. And I failed.
It wasn't just a failure. You made it to the final round. You were almost successful. As Ava exclaimed, I was intrigued by the audition 3 years ago. It was the same audition that kick-started my career as a singer. I had a suspicion. Mary, was that the audition?
Yes. The same one Olivia passed. I participated too.
I hadn't realized it at all. You only care about yourself, don't you?
Such an unpleasant woman.
Mary, with tears in her eyes, reproached Ava, who spat out her words with vehemence.
As I watched the two of them, I finally felt a sense of understanding.
Hearing Mary's story, Ava's past behavior finally made sense to me. And seeing Ava's attitude now, I decided to go through with the decision I had secretly made.
I finally understand, Ava.
Oh, what's with that look? How insolent.
Honestly, I wasn't sure whether to say this or not. After all, you're Jack's mother-in-law. I didn't want to make a fuss.
What do you mean? Ava, you've been saying it all along, haven't you? To introduce Mary for a singing job or to refer her to my agency. Eh? Mom, you said that? That was just small talk. Even for small talk, it felt like big pressure. You became more aggressive when I didn't take you seriously, and recently, you even threatened to sell my private photos to a tabloid if I didn't introduce her. Hey, that's practically threatening. Jack, enraged, leaned forward, but I gestured for him to stay calm. Next to him, Mary opened and closed her mouth in disbelief. She might have been too shocked to find words, not expecting her own mom to do such things.
I felt a bit guilty, but I couldn't stop now.
The incident at the wedding ceremony, was it your way of getting back at me because things didn't go your way? Mom, did you really do such a terrible thing? That is. You coward. Bringing this up in front of Mary. I knew Ava didn't want Mary to know about her actions. Mary would be hurt if she found out. That's why I had been hesitant to say anything. But I had explained the situation to Michael, then he nodded slightly at me from beside of me. Ava was ignoring Mary's attempts to stop her, approached me, veins throbbing on her temples. Let me make it clear. Mary has far more potential as a singer than you. If it weren't for you, she would have passed the audition. She could have been a singer, even a star. I let her marry into a less impressive family, thinking it might lead to a singing opportunity for her. How dare you take advantage of my kindness? Ava's intensity silenced not just me, but Jack and even Mary. As we stood there stunned, Ava continued her irrational tirade. You probably used some dirty tricks to pass that audition, didn't you? Bribe the judges, maybe even seduce them. You seem like the type of doing that really well. Even now, who knows what you're doing to get work? Mom, please stop! Mary's tearful plea seemed unheard by Ava. I was so overwhelmed, I didn't know whether to be angry or sad. Then, Michael spoke up.
Olivia passed the audition on her merit.
Aren't you a sweet husband?
But your wife's popularity is just a fluke. Likewise, Mary failing the audition was a matter of merit.
Michael's firm tone even caught Ava off guard.
I remember that audition 3 years ago well. All the finalists were closely matched in talent. But Olivia had the strongest determination to become a singer.
What right do you have to say that? You're not even involved.
I am involved.
Huh?
I was a judge at that audition. I'm Michael, a music producer.
Michael, the famous music producer Michael? Michael is known as a famous music producer whose works are all hits. Even those not well-versed in music have likely heard his name. He seldom appears in the media, so his face isn't widely recognized. That's why it's understandable that Ava hadn't recognized him. Ava blinked in surprise for a while, but then approached Michael with a sly smile. I had no idea that you were the famous Michael. You should have told me sooner. What would you have done if I had?
Of course, I would have introduced Mary to you. She's a diamond in the rough. With your help, Michael, she could become a star singer.
Enough, Mom.
Do you even know what you're saying?
Be quiet. I will make Mary a singer, no matter what. Stop it, please. Mary yelled with a voice that sounded to shake the room, tears streaming down her face as she glared at Ava. Her face was red with anger, fists clenched tightly, clearly furious from the bottom of her heart.
In conclusion, Mom just wanted to make me a singer for her own vanity and desires. That's the worst. How can you say such things to your mother? A parent's dream is their child's dream. Children have a duty to fulfill their parents' dreams. Don't you understand that? I gave birth to a child with a talent for singing, just for this.
Don't talk nonsense.
The one talking nonsense is you. You could have been rich and famous. What a disappointment.
That's it, I've had enough. I'm cutting ties with you, Mom.
What? Are you out of your mind? From this moment, you are a stranger to me. Please leave. Mary, don't joke around like that. Get out.
Mary, with a strength that belied her slender arms, pulled Ava and pushed her outside the door. Ava, having been thrown out, angrily pounded on the door. When Mary threatened to call the police if she didn't quiet down, Ava's anger turned to tears and pleading.
Mary, why are you doing this to me? I've always done everything for you. Still saying that. Apologize to Olivia, you shameless woman.
Watching Mary shout pained to me, but I was glad she stood by me to the end.
I secretly decided that if Jack and Mary would have another wedding, I will definitely support them.
3 months after the incident with Ava,